Welcome to the Manifested Life podcast. I'm your host, Vienna Corbett, and here we don't wait for someday. It's already done, so let's go. Welcome back to another episode, and before we get into it today, I just want to point out how proud I am of my audience. You guys have shown up for yourselves in huge ways. And if there's one thing that I have learned in this work, is that betting on yourself is where change comes from. And if everyone could just bet on themselves a little bit more, there would be massive, massive change in this world. So you guys just keep showing up for yourself, and I am so proud of you, and I'm proud to be a part of that. So I am excited for today because I'm going to teach you guys something that can not only change your work life or your future work life, but it's going to change your perspective. And what I want to talk about today is the law of compensation. This one really matters because a lot of people, they want to be compensated for the work that they do in a way that feels abundant, right? But right now, where they're currently at, we find that they're working too many hours and they're not getting paid enough. They feel like they are like heavy and that the work feels hard and they're stuck and it's frustrating. And no wonder it's frustrating. They just feel like they're putting in all this time and they're not really getting compensated back. And so here's the hard truth. That feeling is not going to bring in more money because money responds to energy and frustration is not a magnetic frequency, which we know. So how do we bring in more funds? Okay. How do we bring in more funds? And what does the law of compensation say about that? By the way, this law is not a theory. Okay. It's like the law of gravity. So it's not just something that I made up. So the law of compensation says that you are compensated for three things. Okay. How important your work in the world is, how good you believe that you are at that work, and how easy you think it can be replaced. And this is where most people miss it. Okay. If you believe that your work is important, but you think that the market is saturated, then you're missing a key piece because you think you can be replaced. If you think that you're really good at what you do, but you believe it doesn't really impact people, you're still missing a piece. They all have to be online. Importance, excellence, and irreplaceability. So how do we get those things working together? This is exactly the work that we go deep inside in my programs, especially Sovereign Self. And no, it's not just for business owners. It's not just for entrepreneurs. It's for people who want to get into alignment with themselves, with their value, with their identity, with how they show up in this world. And yeah, we talk about business a lot. I'm a business owner. We talk about business a lot because many people went into business because they wanted more than what they had. They wanted freedom. They wanted more choice. They wanted more alignment. But this applies everywhere. So let's look at a job, okay? Let's look at a job, for example, a 9 to 5 job. Say that you work in a deli, okay? I worked in a deli for 10 years. So that's why I'm going to use it as an example. On paper, that job does not scream abundance, but I was wildly successful there. Why? Because I showed up excited, because I showed up and I cared. I created beautiful trays and beautiful sandwiches, and I treated every customer like their experience mattered to me because it did. I had regulars who came in, and when I was working, they were so sweet to me and they were so grouchy to everybody else. But when I saw them, they lit up, they hugged me, and not because I was special, but because I made them feel special. I listened. I remembered how they liked things stacked in their cart and how they liked things made. I did special requests for them with no attitude. I know how they wanted their meat put in bags. I helped them load their carts and I turned sales into something fun. I supported my boss by taking things off of her plate. I gave honest feedback. I did my job to the absolute best of my ability. And I was hard to replace. My work mattered to people, and I believed in the value of what I was doing. That's the law of compensation in action. So it doesn't matter what your job or your role is it doesn't matter what that is. It matters about your belief around it. Your value does not come from a title. It comes from how you show up. So how you serve. How aligned are you with your own worth? And when those beliefs shift, then that's when compensation follows. So if we go back to looking at the deli, for example, I would go in every day and I would look at all the different ways that I could become creative. So I'm a very creative person. I like to be creative with my hands. I like to be creative with my mind. I like to collaborate with other people. And so I would go into work and I would talk to people that I work with and I would say to them, great job. That looks really good, right? To my coworkers, I would say, wow, like that's really good. There was one girl, she used to cut vegetables so fine for the trays. It just looked fantastic. I never could get that to look that good. And I used to compliment her on it. And there was another girl and she used to make the pizzas and she would put the toppings right to the edge. And I was like, wow, like that's a nice pizza. And that's why they sold, right? Everybody had a very important role to play in that job. And when you ask people like, oh, I just work in a deli or I just work at a grocery store or I just do this, they're downplaying the potential of what that could be. So you don't have to be a business owner. You don't have to be somebody that's earning millions of dollars to be compensated. But what you will find, and what I found for myself, was that my belief in what I was doing at the time was what allowed me to continue to grow, which what allowed me to get to where I am now. In this position I'm in now, I connect to people in a real, authentic, vulnerable way so that they can connect to me and see what's possible for them. I coach people in a very intimate way. I listen to their dreams and I help move them towards those. I look at their belief system and I help them break that down and understand it. It's not about me fixing their belief system. It's about understanding their belief system so that we can start to implement positive change so that the belief system that they hold is serving them. It isn't about me telling you what is right and wrong. It's about you telling me what you would love and me helping you achieve that. And yes, I have some strategies that work very well. I have a lot of experience that's going to help us along the way. But the whole journey isn't about me. When I get up and I speak to people, I don't get up there and go, oh, I hope that they really like what I'm saying. I hope I look okay. Oh gosh, I hope I don't screw up my words. I really hope that I don't look too fat on stage, or I hope I don't do anything embarrassing, because that's about me. My job as a speaker is to get up on stage and I want to connect with my audience and show them that they are the ones that are important. I'm there for them. That's why my work is impactful to people, because I show up for my clients and I show up for my audience for them. So when I get up on stage, I think, wow, look at these people who showed up here today. I'm going to deliver to them the best that I can, and I'm going to connect with them in an intimate way so that they can relate to me, so that they can see that what was possible for me is possible for them, if not more. I always tell my clients, if you're earning more than me, I'm doing my job to the max, right? Like that is my dream. That is my goal. My dream is to help people win. I want to see people win. I want to see people, I want them to call me and be like, Vienna, oh my gosh, I just earned $1 million and I'm going on this holiday and my family's doing this and all of the things. And I want to hear the excitement in their voice and I want to see them lit up, because so many times I find people, they're bogged down. And so when they get bogged down, it's because they lose sight of the things that work with the law of compensation. They lose sight of their purpose. They lose sight of their potential and they lose sight of their value, because that's actually what it comes down to. You are valuable in what you do. So let's go back to the deli for a minute. Let's say that that was still my role. How am I valued? Everyone says, oh, you're just a number. Well, maybe, but I want it to be number one, and not so that I could gloat, so I could be number one and show up that way. And so what would number one do? I always say, I have a tattoo on my hand and it says, what would she do? And it means, what would the most elevated version of myself do in this moment? And so that moment at that time was in the deli. And I was thinking to myself, what would like number one employee do? They would walk up and say, hi, welcome to the deli. How can I help you? What can I make for you today? How can I make your experience better? And I actually showed up that way. I would, fix the displays and constantly be facing them, pulling all the stuff forward so people could see the things that we'd created. I made sure that the showcase was really beautiful. I made sure that I would answer customer questions to the best of my ability. And if I didn't know, I'd go find the answer, right? I was trying to give everybody that came into that store, that walked within that deli, an experience that would make them want to come back. I used to work on this, we called it the sliced meat side, where it was like where you get your deli meat sliced. Nobody liked working that side because it was kind of a pain in the butt. You would be making sandwiches and a customer would come up and you'd have to leave the sandwiches and go over to the counter to cut the meat, to put it away, to go back to try to make the sandwiches, and you'd never get anything done. Anyways, sometimes that job had its frustrations, but what I would do is people would come up and they would get their meat sliced, and I would make that part an enjoyable experience for them and for myself. I'd be like, have you tried this before? They're like, no. I'm like, do you want to try it? Do you want to try this type of meat and see if you like it? Well, sure. And then they would try it and be like, this is really good. And I'd be like, what would make a really good sandwich is this, and this. Not only have I upsold them on buying something different and buying 3 different types of meat, or they were making a charcuterie board and I would help them plan the charcuterie board. So I just enjoyed helping people have an experience, right? And so I do that now with the entertainment company. I help people have an experience through family fun. I help people have an experience in their life through coaching. I let people have an experience when I speak. I want people to have an experience that changes their life in some way. So when they came to the deli, I would say to them, like, what are we making? Oh, we're making a charcuterie board. What's it for? A birthday, a wedding, a movie night? Like, what's it for? Well, it's for myself and my husband. It's our anniversary. I'm going to show them something fun. I actually took a shot glass and I put meat around it and made a rose out of it and showed them how to do it. You could do this. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, great. I'll show you the meat that I would use to make this. And then you can go home and make this. And I would give them the little plastic cup. It's not a shot glass. It was used for like dips and stuff. But I would give them the plastic cup to actually take home so that they could go home and make the charcuterie rose. And they were like, they learned how to make a charcuterie rose. They got the meat for it. They got also a whole bunch of cheese that they had no plan of getting. And then they went and got grapes and a bunch of other stuff. So I was upselling for other departments. And sometimes I would just go get a couple packs of strawberries and keep them in the showcase so that they would just take the packs of strawberries with them at that moment. So I was planning ahead for different things so that people could really enjoy the experience. And that was just at a deli. So it doesn't matter what your position is. You could be working as a cashier at Walmart. You could be working in a deli. You could be working in a shipping and receiving warehouse. You don't get to interact with a lot of customers that way. So how could you really be the best that you could be at a shipping warehouse where you don't really interact with a lot of people outside of yourself? Well, what about the truck that you're loading? What if you were able to load that truck in a way that instead of just throwing it all in there, you knew what their route was? Somehow you would ask them like, hey, what's your route? Where do you go first? I go here, here, and here. Well, what would make it easier for you if I loaded your truck this way? Yeah, actually, that would make it easier for me. Thanks so much. You're going to be hard to replace because nobody else is doing that. What if you wrapped things a certain way? If you boxed things a certain way? What if you said hello to people that you work with in a certain way? What if you sit with somebody for lunch instead of being on your phone and talk to them? There's so many ways we can show up in this world that make us valuable, that make us irreplaceable. Like all of the different things, you can make an impact in your job. Let's say you answer phones for a living. And instead of just saying, hi, thanks for calling Vienna Corporate Official, you could say, hi, thanks for calling Vienna Corporate Official. How can I make your day better today? You choose what you say. You get to choose. As long as you're following the script of what you're supposed to say for the job, you can say, how's your day? Great. When people call me from different companies, I get a lot of different calls from a lot of different companies. Some of them are telemarketers, some of them aren't. And I answer the phone, hi, how are you? It sounds so silly, but I want to make sure that everybody's experience with me is elevated in some way. And that's how I show up. So that's why I'm compensated for the things I'm compensated for. I want to express my gratitude for you guys, for listening to me, for supporting me, and for betting on yourself. If this episode has landed with you, share this with a friend. What I have found in this work is that almost every time I talk to somebody who's winning in life, they say, so and so said this to me, who led me to this, and this led me to this, and I found myself here. So if you want to share this episode, tag a friend, post it on your social media, it could impact somebody in a big way. And I know that you guys are going to be compensated for the beautiful work that you do in this world, for the beautiful work you plan to do in this world. I want you guys to go live your dream life because, as you all know, it is already done. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Manifested Life podcast. If you loved it, hit follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And come hang out with me on Instagram at Vienna Corporate Official for the freebies, trainings, and all of the powerful content that I drop daily. Remember, it's already done.